Hello and welcome to the Embracing the Mystery podcast, hosted by yours truly, Danny Rem. This is a podcast where we have expansive conversations around living an empowered and embodied soul-led life, expanding your consciousness and belief systems, what it means to fully embrace the mystery of life that we are all living, and so much more. If you enjoy this podcast, please leave a rating or review wherever you listen. Share it on your social media platforms, like and subscribe. Thank you for being here and enjoy. Hello, beautiful human beings, and welcome to episode 4 of the Embracing the Mystery podcast. In this episode, I interviewed Pleiiades, who is a conscious rapper who weaves into his music really powerful teachings and expansive perspectives to inspire listeners to open their minds, open their hearts, expand their belief systems, and live in a conscious way. In this episode, we spoke about many different topics that are really helpful to understand and integrate during this time of great change and transformation on our planet. And I am super excited to share this episode with you all because Pleiades actually played a very important role for me in the beginning stages of my initial spiritual awakening. When I was in college and my channel blasted open, I was downloading and channeling loads of information that completely challenged every belief I currently had and the way I saw life up until that point, and basically what I thought was possible for my life up until that point. And he was the only one that I could find online who was sharing the same information that I was downloading and therefore affirming it. And it really gave me the validation I needed at the time to continue to follow my heart and my intuition and just to walk the less traditional path that I was being called to. So it is my hope that this episode supports you in navigating your own path at this time and supports you in whatever transformation or changes or expansion, whatever's happening in your life. My prayer is that this episode supports you in navigating it. Enjoy. Aloha, Pleiades, and welcome to the Embracing the Mystery podcast.
Hey, aloha. Thanks for having me.
So grateful to have you here today. So, first, I want to just drop in with you and ask you a little bit about your personal story. I know you make incredible high vibe music that inspires people to just expand their belief systems, raise the consciousness, and tell us a little bit about how you came to develop your channel in a way to be able to receive this information and then put it so beautifully into words with music.
Good thing. I definitely it's a multitude of circumstantial factors inwardly and outwardly that led to the kind of music that I create. I mean, originally, I'm from New Jersey, and I had an uncle that put me on to hip hop music, like real hip hop music, um, the good underground classic stuff since I was like super duper young. And so I grew up, with that style of music and expression kind of like always being, yeah, my favorite genre. And then as I started getting older, I started becoming aware of the fact that the messages in it were they were just either repetitive or kind of like obviously just negative in a lot of ways. And I would catch myself just having these songs stuck and lyrics in my head that are part of the song, and I'm like, I don't want this stuck in my head really. And some of it, I just felt like even yeah, I felt like there was a specific itch of hip hop that like I wanted that very few groups would do, but they would only have a limited amount of content, and I had like a personal desire for a certain kind of music, and that kind of inspired me to eventually start making it my that's what made me put out my music. I was making and sing hip hop before then, and originally it was an outlet of emotional processing. It was started when I was like 12 years old. I got expelled from my school. I got put in like a kind of juvenile corrections facility. And that was where I first started writing music, was there. I was like going through all this miserable human experience, loneliness, all this stuff. And I was just writing my first rap, like, oh, I hate this, like, oh, this is ridiculous, like, oh, these mother effers, and just getting it all out there. And then I did enough of that where originally all my original music was just to kind of talk to someone about my inner processing. And it's like I'm talking to my notebook or whatever, and I'm like getting it out. And but yeah, then you get all the gunk out, and then eventually you grow a little older. I started getting more conscious, went through all of the different early stages of awakening, and then just naturally started talking about all this other stuff because I'm like, what else is there to talk about besides expanding your consciousness? And then, as time went on, I just realized that I was you know, had an affinity for this kind of expression. Lots of different, everyone has different strengths and different things that they excel at. Communication is one of my more proficient domains and always has been since I was a very young person, even younger than I am. Yeah, so it just went hand in hand, and I never really thought too much about it. I was just like, this feels good, this is fun, and I would sit and listen to my music in the car and chill out, and I'd be like, yeah, I would listen to all my favorite music, and then I'd play my stuff, and I'm like, yeah, this is kind of what I want to be listening to. So then it's just, just kept going. The messages got more and more refined, and yeah, that's like the biggest nutshell of that. I never had too much thought about it. I always just did it because it felt like I enjoyed it so much that, other people probably would too. And it would feel like a disservice. Sometimes I didn't want to put some of my music out there, but I did because I felt like, hey, what if my favorite artist, like,
Mm,
decided he didn't want to put some of his lamest songs out? I'm sure I would still love it, and I would like
right.
find unreleased music from my favorite artists and stuff, and like underground unreleased mixtapes and stuff. And I'm like, oh, what's wrong with these perfectionist creators, man? Like, this is good stuff. So I kind of do my best to stay true to that myself and just put out whatever I'm feeling. Sometimes I still do a lot of the emotional stuff and processing. And yeah, I recommend anyone who does music or any kind of artistic expression, that was like went hand in hand with my emotional healing and emotional intelligence, just getting it all out there. But yeah, that's that. Feels good, healing.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. It sounds like you're saying first it was medicine for you, and then now putting it out into the world, it's like medicine for everybody who listens. And yeah, I definitely feel that when I listen to it for
A good way to
sure.
put it. Music is meant to be the language that transcends all beliefs, that transcends all races, the universal language,
Mm.
that emotion, when emotion is paired with it, when it's like genuine and integral and like, yeah, from the emotional center, it's like obvious to me that, I can't even imagine making any other kind of music, so that, yeah, because I originally started using it as an emotional healing tool, so then it just came natural. But yeah, it's powerful. I give thanks to music, glad it exists, and grateful to all of my inspirations that, definitely helped me, how I was able to come out the gate with my level of skill. Like they say, stand on the shoulder of giants, I have so many different people I could say that I grew up listening to that just like made me naturally more able. I would like rap along to their stuff while I was, so I would like always practice. And then once I came to do it myself, I already had somewhat of an ability to be like lyrical, miracle, spiritual. Like, yeah,
There it is right
it's
there.
fun, man. It's stimulating. Yeah.
You mentioned that you went through like this initial phase of awakening. And I know that's something that so many people on our planet are experiencing right now. So I wonder if you want to share anything about how that was for you or any advice you have for other people listening to this.
Yeah. So, I mean, generally speaking, just going off the top here, I feel like the it starts with something that's like originally It's like I heard this thing in psychology. Let's see if I could remember it. It starts from like being unconsciously incompetent to consciously incompetent to consciously competent to unconsciously competent or something along those realms. And that's kind of like the four stages of like developing as basically aligning with your truest self. And that was just something I wanted to put out there. But I feel like it originally starts with just being, that unconsciously incompetent is where you're just straight up in ignorance. Of course, this is before the awakening. This is just ignorance is bliss, naivety, going with what the government and everyone that's a authority figure tells you, and just believing in the societal way things have always been. And then you start to realize consciously everything is incompetent. Everything is just distorted, and then that's the beginning stage that I feel everybody goes through at some point. And some people stay in that stage longer than others. Some people, honestly, like in some way, like always trickle in some aspects of that original perspective that I feel is important to transcend at some point. We get it. The world is full of problems. It's so easy to find all of the issues. But to some people, there's people waking up in different timelines. Like there's been people who've been awake for 40 years now, and then there's been some people who've been awake for 4 days and they're just starting to actually crack open and like, oh my goodness, all of this stuff is a lie. It's all a lie. It's so negative, and it's like enough years of that. It's like, Jesus Christmas, bro. Can you just like focus on a solution? And that's where
Mhm.
it starts getting into the third stage is like
Mm.
you get tired of, you know, what you put your energy towards is going to grow. So you
Mhm.
putting all this energy towards all these dark, powerful powers that be that are enslaving us and controlling the matrix. You give that reality power. You're consenting to that reality. So, and this is where, of course, balance is really key. This third stage, a lot of people like will stay in this one too, where they feel like kind of now follow the bliss and only focus on the positive things. And but there's that embodiment. That's what leads to the final stage, which is well, not to skip to that one. The third stage is kind of like, all right, now you're consciously aware of the things that you need to do. And what a lot of people do is because they realize now, okay, if I meditate, do my yoga, do my breath work, and say my affirmations and do my journaling, I know that that's just the key to all of it. I'm enlightened now. Here it is. I know it all. And that sounds really crazy to say, but like emotionally, energetically, and from some type of egoic perspective, a lot of people actually fall into that, especially when when you're just coming out of the egoic stages of awakening, and then you get a whole bunch of like really profound experiences that you can have prematurely. I mean, everything has its path. You could say that there's no mistakes in anything, but like specifically with like psychedelics, or someone stumbles on to a sweat lodge really early as a young age, or like some kind of like really profound experience that they have while they still have a lot of remnants of their egoic attachment. You can attach your ego onto
Right.
the whole I am one with the universe. I am one with the universe rather than the universe is experiencing itself through what I think is an I, but it's actually just all of that. There is no identity and stuff. And
Right. That's more
yeah,
like
so the
spiritual
knowledge,
ego.
yeah, exactly. Lots and lots of that. And yeah, that third stage definitely is a period that a lot of people spend a lot of time in, and then it's like a lifelong, I mean, this whole thing is a lifelong game. You never reach the fourth stage and then now you're done or whatever. It's just a lifelong constant embodiment. And that's the stage where I feel I like to see more and more people come into, and that's where I try to spend the the best of my ability to occupy the space of is integrating all perspectives to find a balanced harmony that I can walk that actually, you know, is applied in my day-to-day life. You can understand what to do, you can understand the solutions, you can know the problems and all that, but none of that stuff really has any hold on your experience unless you live it and you embody it. And you're always given, like my kumu likes to say, freaking pop quizzes and surprise workshops, that is life constantly giving you the opportunity to show what you know, basically, and to live it. And so that's, where all the challenges and stuff come, the opportunities that people mostly feel are obstacles. And that's what
Mm,
life always is, and
mm,
99% of people, I would imagine, have all kinds of different limiting beliefs. They were raised in a certain way that embedded certain traumas and stuff from other lifetimes and all kinds of stuff that we always got to work out. So it's not just a matter of like, okay, this is wrong. Now I got to do this. It's like now that you're realizing the general picture of how to be a human in a harmonious, loving, compassionate life, now all the traumas are coming up, all the unconscious things that you didn't, then it's just a constant cleaning and clearing and embodying of the truth in each moment, make the next aligned decision you can in each and every moment. And yeah, it's usually a lifelong journey for all of that. And then you get to a point where you just kind of balance. And the last thing I'll say on this whole topic thing here is a lot of people find themselves on one or two extremes. And the biggest key that I feel that we are looking to embody as a species is to find middle ground and be able to, I mean, in one way, like get along with everybody. You don't want to develop so much on yourself and your path that you start to like subtly and unconsciously separate yourself from those who you feel are not on the spiritual path. They're not doing this, that, and the other that you take so much pride in and that is so powerful, and you need to associate yourself with the vibration that you feel you want to become and all this kind of stuff. There's a space and
right.
time for that, but there's a space and time that I feel should take up the majority of the rest of your entire life, where you need to learn that everybody is coming from their own levels of karmic complexities that are so beyond just being able to write off as like what is the right path, what is the wrong path. And until everybody is awake, until everybody ascends into this higher understanding, it's like as a species nobody does. We're all still in the
Mm,
same boat. You can have a little isolated group of people where you're all, zen as heck. But then if like across the ocean, there's all this other stuff going on, you are connected to all of that. And that will always be something that, needs integration. And so I hope to see more and more, and I already am in day-to-day life, but as people begin to guide others that are beginning this awakening process of like helping see like genuine true compassion and understanding for other people who are just starting to go through the messier periods. If you feel like you just got through a really messy period, or if you're in a messy period of your path, that's even more reason to give um compassion and understanding, and meet people in the middle and not have an idea too much about like how you're supposed to live, what your surroundings are supposed to look like, how everything is supposed to like be categorized, just like yeah, follow the heart, follow the intuition, and like meet people and meet the world where they're at, meet your life where it's at, work with what you got. And yeah, life is about balance, We're not just gonna snap our fingers and shoot to 5D, some other dimension like a DMT trip, be the rest of our life of taking that image that we feel in our higher consciousness and, spending the rest of our life just using that as inspiration to paint our reality. And then it'll look like something that's beyond what we can think about. It's beyond the image of our head. It's just a guideline, and then the
mm.
intuition does the rest. And yeah, that's my little what you could call nutshell of the awakening process. You get to a point where you just find acceptance of everything. There's a balance for everything. There's a place for everything, so there is no right or wrong path, right or wrong thing, right or wrong way. There's just your way right here, right now. And
Mm.
everyone else has that. And we got to learn how to cooperate as humans. And that's how genuine change happens, I feel. Yeah.
Mm. There's even a verse in one of your songs, and it talks about you talk about how it's an honor to be incarnated at this time, and that it's like you're here doing God's work, and it's not an inconvenience, it's an honor. And that was like one of the lyrics that really spoke to me. And I feel like it's so related to what you're saying because yeah, when we do have these big awakenings and we are in a higher vibration, like having that compassion and being able to use our energy then for service to help others who are going through maybe the struggles that we went through, or, helping open their minds in some way, whether it's through music or, like holding some sort of workshop. I feel like that's so powerful.
Everyone's got some kind of gift. And that's the fun part of the life, why it's such, an honor is one, of course, the main reason behind that is just, I mean, like really scope out and look at, this evolutionary stage of our planet as a whole, the stage that it's all on. We're at the precipice, we're in the transition time of like, you thought what is it, the Industrial Revolution or the Renaissance or something was just like a spurge of new energy. It's like that to the
Hmm.
power of 100. We're going to be seeing whole new realms of thought and consciousness that are integrated you know, with pre-existing ways that life has already developed. And that's the key is I don't think the world is going to change where we all become Neanderthals and jump into the woods and we're barefoot hippies and there's no civilization in the Western sense anymore or something like that.
Right.
It's an integration of all of it. I like to say, man, there was this video I saw recently that I've been really enjoying sending people about somebody went out of their way to like make a sandwich for themselves from absolute like legitimate scratch. That means like growing the wheat to make the bread, growing every vegetable, make brah. It took them like 15 months or something like that to make a sandwich from scratch. Just to give some type of very small perspective as to the extent to where modern conveniences govern our lives. I mean, yeah, that's where the balance comes into play. It's integrating both, and that's where we're at as a species right now. We're going to be in the next 100 years or so. The change is going to be like unfathomable. And we're right here on the precipice watching it all happen in real time. And it looks like a bunch of chaos, a bunch of war, and these are all things that are coming up. This is all part of the world. But in reality, in the grand scheme of things, this is all the chemical reaction to a whole new transformation, a whole new molecule, I guess you could say, being formed. And it's beautiful that we get the honor of playing any role in this, like
Mhm.
having talks like this, putting awareness on it, like for me, I like making music, other artists like painting and like making other kinds of videos and talking and just I can't even think about it right now. Coaching, energy healing, and also many of the main things that actually still need to be done in this world. The gardeners, builders, the doctors, the
Mhm.
all of these kinds of things. Like everyone plays their role in the grander scheme for this all to happen. And the fun part of this life is you come in here, you get lost, everything's confusing for now. The next generations aren't going to have to do all that. But then once you
Mhm.
get out of the mind fog, eventually something inside of you calls you to an outlet of expression. And that outlet of expression, I personally feel, guides you onto your destined path. the path that you passionately desire on a soul level, and it aligns you with your purpose. So therefore, it gives you soul, energy, physical, mental fulfillment because you end up helping people. You're helping yourself and you're helping other people. That's how you know that you found your role in your life is when you are being fulfilled, when you do something and you feel great doing it, you feel great thinking about it, you feel great after you do it, and it helps other people. That's your life path, most likely, that's your purpose. And then once you find that, it's like, wow, you get this real sense of like, whenever the world gets dark and all that kind of stuff, you have an outlet that you don't have to think about. You just know that this is naturally, innately something that you can put your energy towards. And then it ends up playing a role. How can we take down all the dark forces? There's so much momentum going in that direction, blah, blah, blah. Like, if everyone just finds their role and sticks to that role, it plays a part of a divine plan that none of us see the full picture of. We don't even see like a 1% of it. We just that's the glory of being in the human game. It's truly like this smoke and mirrors situation that, at some point I feel like you need to come to terms with. The nature of reality is a confusing fractal of different dualistic fluctuating polarities that are always reinventing what we think we know, what we think is the way things are going to be. It's always changing because we are all the consciousness of the planet. And think about how many different perspectives, how many different ideas, how many different approaches, if you take into account all of the perspectives of all humans on the earth. So that gives some ideas to just how fluctuating the timeline for humanity's future is. It's not like
Hmm.
one collective being like, okay, we're going to do this. And then the world will look like this. And this is how the new earth is going to transition. It's like all these different random ideas and perspectives from all the different parts of the collective are all culminating into one outcome, one reality. And yeah, it's crazy to think about, bro. We live in a world that's way crazier than any movie or any fiction or any story. The true reality that we discover is like it's wild, bro. We live in a wild world. And all we can do is just be compassionate with each other, hold each other's hands through all this, and be like, yo, everyone goes through that period where they're just like, wow, there's too much. Why'd I sign up for this? This ain't an obligation. This ain't
Yeah.
an honor. This is hell. I signed up for the demon realm, like of growth. It's supposed to grow like purification through fire. Why would I sign up for this? Who didn't? I didn't read the fine print. But we all go through that at some point. No matter how far along you get, I get those days, and that's why community
Mm,
and coming together
mhm.
and resources like this, where somebody who's going through all the human things of life could play this podcast, play this video, listen to this audio, and be like, yeah, you know, we in this ish, bro. We in this ish. And then it's just a reminder of the role that we all play, even
Mhm.
just by like taking a self-care day and not doing stuff and feeling like you're unproductive or whatever. You're contributing to managing your vibration, calming your nervous
Mhm.
system so that you could be a pillar to amplify the frequency of peace and contentment and calmness that we overall want to accomplish. So literally, yeah, everything plays its role. Everything plays its part. And we all have our own little contribution to this grand thing. And it sure as heck is an honor when you look at it like that. Pretty cool that we get this gift.
Yeah, that's such a beautiful perspective to have because I feel like when people are really struggling, it's hard to see it that way, that it is an opportunity to actually, yeah, just cultivate so much within and learn how to share that and how to contribute and be in service in those ways. And I think that when we are channeling our energy into something that we really love and care about, whether it's supporting other people or art, like you were talking about music, it also just kind of dissolves that place of struggle and hardship, or we can use that struggle and hardship to create art, like what you were talking about, like your music being medicine for you first. So I feel it's so beautiful. And
Yeah.
It's so true. It's like a web. We're all weaving the web together energetically in some way, shape, or
Yeah.
form, which is so powerful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the fuel, all these experiences that make us feel confused, doubt, reassess what we think is real, what we think is right, what we think is healthy, what we think is the path, all of these pop quizzes, surprise workshops, all this stuff is
I love that
it
term.
creates yeah, no, it's so applicable.
Yeah.
It creates this inner reservoir of emotion, which is, it stimulates these different emotions of different intensities, and emotions is moving and energy moving through us, energy and motion. And these emotions are the fuel to interact and co-create with the universe and actually create our reality. You got your thoughts, which are like the direction of how you wish to create your reality, the projected direction of what you wish to create. But all your thoughts aren't going to do jack diddly dumb nothing if you don't have the emotional backing. You got to
Right.
have that energy, that fuel, so all these different circumstances, they become literal fuel to be able to create with reality. Without that fuel, without that emotional conviction, that presence of some deep emotion, you know, you're not going to get very far with creating your desired reality. That's why when you want to set forth your path, if you're like, oh, I want to wake up and meditate for this long and do this practice for this long and journal and read for this long, and then I'm going to eat this and this for blah blah blah, do this fast and this cleanse. It's like if you say all that and don't have an emotional resolve, like a real passionate reason, like, okay, I've been living so inharmoniously for a while, it's been exuding into my projected reality. I've been showing up, thinking, feeling, acting, behaving, treating others, treating myself in a way that has made me feel so unpleasant for so long. I want to be better. I want to be my best self, like if you don't have like some kind of resolve like that, you're going to fall off and you won't stick to all the stuff that you want to do that is what's best. That resolve, that emotional presence is what's needed to like, yeah, be the person we want to be, do the things we want to do. We need to, yeah, in a really integrate our emotions, live emotionally based because we live in a feeling based universe, not a thought oriented universe.
Mm.
It's all feeling based. So our feelings is the key to healing, and it's very revealing when we tune into our feelings. We're able to co-create that way. Without it, I mean, ain't much going on without feeling integration.
Right. 100%. Yeah. I teach breathwork classes, and one of the things I love to say is like you have to feel it to heal it because sometimes there can be so much resistance. Like I feel like within humanity there is so much resistance to feeling whether it's good or bad. Like sometimes people are just like uncomfortable. But when we can really get into the body and begin to process things and not only process things, but what you're saying too, like embodying the energy and the emotions that are supportive to co-creating our reality and really knowing ourselves as a creator, like that's when the whole game changes.
100%, man. Feeling is healing, and you gotta go through those emotional realms because this energy, it has a whole bunch of different spectrum. You have, say, like, I don't know, hate on the bottom of it and love at the top of it, and then every other emotion, jealousy, greed, bitterness, irritability, like, and then like compassion, understanding, forgiveness, like this whole span of energy of all different frequencies, just like you have the rainbow, the light spectrum, all the different colors are a different frequency, and it's a different experience. If you're in a whole red room, everything is red, you're gonna feel different than if everything was blue or everything was green or everything was purple. They all in allow you to experience a different realm of energy. And being able to understand that on a cellular level allows you to dimension hop, allows you to understand, you know, what dimension of reality you truly wish to operate within a given moment. You can get to a point of mastery eventually where like you can invoke the dimension of energy that you so desire. So what I mean by this is like imagine an exercise that's really easy to do that I like to share with people is like imagine a memory that you have of like one of your most fond memories, like the best day ever or something like that. You know, you just everything in that day happens. You were just so freaking happy the whole day, right? You just remember that memory of where something happened where you were so happy. And then you remembering that allows you to bring forth that emotion into your body. You know, you think about a certain memory, think about something that's really sad, think about something that's really happy, you know, you can get like this whole chill go up your whole body and then all of a sudden that emotion is in your present being. You know, that's a tool to kind of like bring the feeling into your being because that's all it is. Whatever gets you there is what gets you there. You know, everything in the realm of form is transient, but all of these emotions have something to teach us. And that's why, you know, this feeling is healing thing is so you know, important is because each and every emotion has a specific frequency that we need to encode into our being to have the full spectrum of the rainbow of emotions, so to speak, so that we can truly choose wherever we wish to occupy. If we don't have certain parts of our rainbow filled into our codes, if we haven't truly felt every single part of the rainbow, we might wish to operate in happiness. But if
Hmm.
we haven't encoded everything that the frequency of sadness and loneliness and doubt and insecurity, if we haven't truly encoded the essence of that part of the rainbow into our being. And we've always spent our life trying to avoid that. And whenever that feeling would come up, try to like develop all these intensely complex coping mechanisms to escape that reality. As much as we want to operate in happiness, our being seeks completion. It doesn't seek just happiness. That's our natural state. That's nothing new to our soul. Our soul came into earth to experience the full embodied state of all realms of being separate from creator. How far into this fractal away from the very simple reality of all connected with everything. How far can we go from that? So that means the exact opposite of that is feeling the full spectrum. So, like I was saying, as much as we want to feel happiness, if we haven't felt all the other contrasting things, you know, our being can't help but continuously create circumstances for that emotion to be prevalent in our life so that we can become whole and become integrated. And then once we filled in the whole spectrum of the rainbow, then, you know, it's like, then you get to choose how you want to feel and you have more of a say in your conscious reality creation. But until we get to that point, you know, it is kind of like a healthy level of like surrender, you know, of just allowance, you know, I like to say,
Hmm.
because some, you know, surrender is a big word, but allowance is more like you're giving your power to the process. It's not like surrendering almost implies, you know, I am powerless to creation and my emotions, and I have no power over them. So I'm just like, "Ugh, Jesus, take the wheel, you know. But allowing allowing it is when you can just receive it all and still kind of same thing as surrendering, you know, go limp energetically speaking and just but you're choosing, you know, rather than feeling like you have no other choice, you know, allowing it is an empowering decision to be like, I'm not afraid of whatever existence has in store for me. And also, I trust in the divine design of everything. And I know that this has something to teach me. And yeah, switch the, yeah, word magic is big. That's another big thing I was really big on for a long time. You know, it's just rewriting words, in your mind, rewriting your mental talk, your affirmations, everything. Be very conscious of the spells you're putting on yourself. But that's a whole other conversation.
We can totally go into that, but this is such a powerful topic of the integration and the wholeness. And you're talking about how we come here to experience like feeling separate from source and feeling these other emotions like anger and fear and sadness. And I think when we are fighting those things, that's actually what really causes us to feel separate. Because when we allow what you're talking about, we really go into them and allow ourselves to feel, we realize, oh, source is here too. And this is just energy moving, and I can still be connected to myself and to God as I feel this. And, I think it's really about that, like pushing away of those emotions that causes greater pain and suffering because it's like then we have truly disconnected from source because we've disconnected from ourselves and from our feelings.
And then it's persisting, whatever we're resisting. We're
Exactly.
pulling the slingshot back even further. Eventually it all needs to come to the surface no matter what. And yeah, the main thing is just remembering that it's all part of a plan.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of different beliefs and philosophies and realms of thought that help people get there. And that's another big thing is, when it comes to finding middle ground as a human species, and how there's no right way. There's a lot of people look at all organized religions as like just pure false everything. And there's an aspect of that that's true. And then there's an aspect of the other realm where you can have someone who's a complete religious nut and they're just like totally into these systems, but they're actually helping them, in
Mhm.
some way, shape, or form to unconsciously do these things. You don't have to have a full awareness of the whole perspective that we're talking about this ascension and this soul lesson and the energy and everything that we've talked about. You don't have to know any of this to progress along this path. There could be a fisherman out there with like no ice with isolation completely from the world and just living a really joyful life and being with nature and not having these complex philosophical thoughts about the nature of developing as a human being and becoming more of their truest soul identity. And they could be much more along the path of what one might call awakening than somebody who's like you know, bookworm in all the books and texts and philosophies and meditates all the time, but like, could still have a lot more chaos in their being, of like almost anxiety of like, oh, I need to be doing this more. I need to be doing that more. That's the other downside that could happen when you get too attached to what the idea of awakening, the idea of growing, the idea of development, if you get too attached to what it looks like, you could get really self-critical about, oh, I'm not doing blah, 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 blah. When
Mhm.
really we're just here to be. We're just here to exist. We're here to like find the joy that we can in each moment and find the integrity of each decision that we can step by step, day by day. And then that creates all these, where you want to be. But you don't get there by trying to fit that unrealistic image. It's just really a day by day thing. And some of the most enlightened people you could say are the people who don't have any idea about all these spiritual understandings and
Totally.
enlightenment and the last people to ever consider themselves enlightened or they just are living their life, doing their thing. That's the
Hmm.
beauty of it, man. It's natural. If you don't get in your own way, the natural instincts, desires, thoughts, inspired impulses of a human being who is just living in harmony with their just following love, following the good feeling, intuition, guidance, and all these internal navigation systems. The natural evolutionary drive is to get where we all want to get, which is developing as a being and becoming more integrated and all of these kinds of things. So we don't have to get so hard on ourselves or get so critical or get so overly attached to what the journey looks like. We can just really freaking live and watch the show and just like I always repeat again and again, I'll always say it, is make the next aligned decision. That's all we
Mhm.
can ever do. Good luck getting to tomorrow. Can't ever finish today. As soon as tomorrow finally comes, it's today. Damn, maybe tomorrow will come tomorrow. Tomorrow comes again, it's today. That's all we ever have. It's always a game.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
beautiful perspective. And I always like to remind myself and the people I work with that the only time we can ever get anything done is in the present moment. So it's better to just be here and, like you said, take the next aligned step or action forward. And I love your example also about the fisherman who has like no concept of any of this stuff, because it is so true. And what you said earlier too about maybe the way you're contributing is like taking time to take care of yourself and self-care and be in nature. Because I think a lot of times with everything that's going on the planet, people are feeling like, oh my gosh, like we have to fix it and we have to figure it out now, and I have to do all of these things and save all of these people. And it's like really it just comes from you, like you said, like being in the aligned place and being in our joy and like being in that frequency and moving from that place. And from there, like it all happens naturally. And um, that's something I like to contemplate because people are so afraid of what is happening right now on our planet. Like it could be perceived to be very dark. And at the same time, it's like it's because so much light is coming in and so much is coming to the surface and being
Hmm.
released. And it's like we're going to get there and it's going to be okay and we can trust. And yeah, like you said, just taking the next line step to contribute to that in whatever way that is for you is the best thing to do rather than stress out about it or freak out or give our energy to that.
Yeah, I mean, anything that we do in life only holds the most power that it can if it's from a true space of heart-centered alignment. So,
Mhm.
like, sometimes, yeah, the next best thing we can do is care for ourselves. We might have these thoughts, oh, I want to contribute to this tension. I want to be all this, I want to participate in all of this. I want to help people, all this kind of stuff. If that's coming from that space, good luck. You're going to burn out. You're going to probably, all kinds of stuff. It's going to serve to your detriment. I
Mhm.
definitely learned that. I feel like that's a big thing. That whole martyr savior complex, is a big thing that a lot of people with high levels of empathy get involved with is, um, is that. But as you take more time to do the next truly aligned state, the next truly aligned action, if that means caring for yourself, you know, reclusing from everything to be able to focus on your internal world, eventually, by the natural laws of how things unfold, like what I was describing earlier, the natural evolutionary drive within all of us in an aligned state. You will one day, from a space of true heart coherent alignment, decide, oh, I want to create this. I want to share this. I want to go out and do this. I want to, help this person with this, or I want, it's just, it doesn't become a thought process. It just becomes an inspired impulse to do
Mm.
something that eventually then you do end up contributing to the ascension and helping your brothers and sisters awaken and all of that kind of stuff. It comes naturally, like you were mentioning, from taking the time to focus on yourself. And that's a really big thing that in my personal journey I'm still all the time, questioning and analyzing and reevaluating my intentions in that realm of, like, making yourself come first, making sure that you helping others or giving something or creating something or doing something isn't taking away, or basically that you're not ignoring your needs, that you're not ignoring your well-being, that all of these things that you are helping other people with, that you are doing, that you are able to put to practice these things. And that's, once again, that lifelong journey thing is like consistently making sure that you are at the level that, you would advise someone to be if they were looking at you. Like if you duplicated yourself, took your life and went in front of another version of yourself and you were to give yourself advice and perspective and guidance as to where your life is, where your thoughts are, because you know yourself better than any therapist or psychologist or friend or family member. You can analyze your true self better than anyone else, but it takes that moment of introspection. And in my journey, I grew up in a lot of ways where I would just focus on other people's well-being before my own because I was like, oh, I'll be good no matter what. I'll survive. I had an upbringing that was kind of influenced me in that way. It goes into attachment styles, which is something that, in terms of shadow work and personal development, is a psychological term that I think is pretty new to psychology. That some people, maybe a couple years old, 5, 10 years old or something now. But your different attachment styles, I think that really awakens a lot of unconscious avenues of introspection. You got to recognize all of the things that are holding you back in order to transcend them. And there's like four main attachment styles. There's the secure attachment style, which is where everyone is looking to go, or the lucky guys and girls out there who were raised secure.
Right.
Like all the future generations are more than likely going to be nowadays. But there's the secure, the anxious, the fearful avoidant, and then the disorganized avoidant, I'm pretty sure, or the and this understanding that about yourself, where you fall on the spectrum. And it's a spectrum. It's not like you identify as this and that means you are exuding all of those things in your life. It's a spectrum. You could fall somewhat on either scale. You could be different attachment styles. You could be a bit secure and a bit anxious, a bit secure and a bit avoidant or whatever. But that stuff really helped me realize, I was on the anxious spectrum where I was always monitoring all of my attachment figures as a child, trying to make sure everyone else was okay. And a lot of people, especially empathically strong individuals who didn't have their emotions cut off, um, end up doing that. And that's a big healing factor for, I feel, a great majority of the population is like truly making sure that you're making sure your needs are acknowledged and met before you're going outside, because it could be so fulfilling and distracting of your own wholeness. You regulate through, like, when that other person is okay, when my family member is okay, when my partner is okay, when my friend is okay, when this person asking for help is okay, then I'll be okay. And yeah, you gotta flip the script there and put the glass inside. And people have a tendency to not even think about their own emotional well-being and needs and all these kinds of things. And yeah, and then there's a balance with all that, because it's not like only focusing on yourself and not caring about everything else, only and that's the whole other thing. The avoidant side of the spectrum, generally speaking, it's not as black and white as this, but do have more of um an inward perspective of all of it, and making sure that their needs are all good and all that stuff before going outward. And you know they regulate more so just inward, and then the anxious will regulate more so outward. And then the secure is balanced, is in between, is aware of their internal needs, aware of the internal requirements and how to meet them, and then does it. And then also aware of how they can regulate, co-regulate with other people, and help them with their stuff. uh I didn't word that as elegantly as I could have, but you get the point. Attachment style is really good. And I will just shout out in this video, bro. There's this YouTube channel called Heidi Priebe, prime prime psychological
Mm.
introspective development stuff. If anyone's into listening to stuff like this, listen to Heidi Priebe. You know, kind of difficult to spell, but I believe in you. Really good to learn about all these different things. This gives you more tools on your tool belt when life hands you emotional pop quizzes.
Totally, yeah. Yeah, it is powerful to get into that kind of stuff because I feel like it's another way we can reclaim our sovereignty and our ability to choose consciously how we're showing up and also choose our partners consciously too, then we're not coming from this unconscious place of just the energies that come together of anxious and avoidant and it's great and then it's exploding and not working and but really being able to find that inner balance also externally and um it's so beautiful too because both attachment styles are coming from this like desiring intimacy, but being afraid of intimacy too. And I feel like when we can work on
Yeah.
being intimate with ourselves, it also creates this greater intimacy with our connection to source. And I feel like that's what's really needed to come into a conscious partnership to dissolve this place of either needing from the other person in a codependent way or like totally just letting ourselves be a doormat in that codependent sense. So I feel like it really can create that stronger connection between us and source and then also externally to another person, whether it's a partner or a friend or a family member, community member. So I'm so glad you brought that up.
Yeah. No, it's important, man. It's important. The inner work is always seeing how things outside of you that seem to be life circumstances, partnerships are of course a very strong reflection of this, but also just injustices in the world, things that make
Mm,
you feel justified. This is wrong, that's why I feel this. This
right.
is injustice, this is whatever, that's why I feel this. But really just with everything that like stirs up that kind of emotion within you, looking it up, what is this showing me about me? This is just a reflection of me. What are unaccepted parts of myself that are being shown and revealed in this circumstance? And uh yeah, that's where the level of expansion can really start to have a plan, an action plan. That's where you can take accountability for your stuff and where you
Right.
still got to grow is
Yeah.
by seeing that all of it is you. It seems like, oh, I just picked the wrong partner. Oh, I just am in the wrong job. I'm in the wrong whatever. And of course, there's a balance. Sometimes you are in the wrong job. Sometimes you are in the wrong relationship. Sometimes you are blah, blah, blah. But you should always first look at what potential unseen parts of myself are trying to be understood through this. What is my inner being trying to reveal to me from this circumstance? And it might be like, oh, I'm expecting too much of this situation. I'm being dependent upon this other person, this other circumstance, this life event. I'm depending upon this for some kind of regulation or something like that. Like, it a lot of the times can reveal a lot of inner blind spots, when you like take that time to reflect and look back in because everything in life is always showing us something. You don't attract certain people just for a mistake. You attract people that have a lesson for you all the time. You attract life circumstances that have a lesson for you all the time. There's always something you could learn from it. And then you could either go forward with it, like, oh, I was just tripping. Here's how, I can see things differently, go through things differently, and then you stay in that circumstance. Or it could be, all right, I see the lessons, and now, this circumstance no longer needs to be here. I can now transcend it, move forward with next chapters with this new understanding. I've learned what it has to teach me, or, everything is a balance. There's no right answer, no one set in stone thing once you do that introspection. But it's all got to start with that introspection and seeing, like, what can I see about myself about all of this? And yeah, that's where practices that get you out of your mind really come in handy. Even creative practices doesn't even have to be meditation, It can be a meditative creative expression or something. It can bring you into that state.
Hmm. 100%. Yeah. And it's so beautiful, like these reflections that are all around us, and when we can really look in and see what's been coming up for ourselves. And I think it's an opportunity too, like you're saying, like to learn, but not to shame ourselves, like to let these parts come home to love, to let ourselves feel them and meet their needs, whatever, happened in the past that's showing up again now, how can we be that loving parent or friend that we didn't have at that point in time? And rather than to make ourselves wrong for whatever we did, but to look at what's happening, take the time to look within, and then, like you said, grow from it and correct it and move forward. And I think sometimes people get stuck in, maybe not even looking within and feeling victim, or then like kind of in the shame spiral rather than like, oh, okay, so like now I can choose a new way. So yeah, finding that power within when we see those things to be able to move forward in a positive way is so important.
Another thing in the psychological perspective things is there's this, they call it the drama triangle, that most people find themselves in. You normally are one or multiple parts of the drama triangle your whole life until you become aware of it.
Hmm.
You got the victim,
Yes.
persecutor, and rescuer. Victim, persecutor, rescuer. You might be like a victim sometimes, and then you become a victim so much that then you become the persecutor, and then once you persecuted, something in life happens negatively, and then you jump right back into the victim, or you are the savior all the time, and then the savior accumulates so much resentment from that lifestyle that then you become the persecutor, or then you shoot to the victim, or you're just one your whole life, you're constant, whatever. um Usually you can identify in your unawake life, in your unconscious um limiting states of being, that you are in one or multiple, or I don't know, maybe all three of those positions: victim, persecutor, or rescuer. And it's all about like, nah, I'm not here to rescue nobody. No, I'm not a victim to anything. No, I'm not here to persecute anybody. The world doesn't owe me anything, it's all.
Hmm.
And then you go in the center of the triangle, and then you can see that everyone is usually playing out one of those three things in like almost all life circumstances, man. It's like a really helpful framework to, once again, have compassion. Why does somebody do that? All life circumstances, man. We were all raised so crazy, man. We live in bonkers world. We just need to have compassion for other people. And you need to have compassion with yourself first. Once you get compassionate about yourself, realize like, oh man, I've done some really messed up stuff. I've said some really messed up things. I've hurt people. I've done all kinds of things. I blew the deal, man. I blew the deal so many times. And like, then you're like, okay, why did I blow the deal? It's not because I'm a bad person. I didn't hurt that person because I wanted to. And even if you did want to hurt somebody, or you did want to whatever, like, why? What's the deeper reason behind that? Why did you feel so much pain as to want to inflict it? Like, you get all the way down, chiseled to the refined essence of why you did certain things that were of a pain orientation, and then you can always come down to, I was out of harmony with love. I was
Hmm.
lacking love. I didn't have the love that I required. And then you can give yourself that love and realize, oh, wow, everyone does things that are disharmonious because they need more love. But you don't necessarily have to or can be the one to give that love. They can
Hmm.
only be that love for themselves. The
Right.
best that you could ever do is be a guiding light, you know, the Christmas lights pointing on the runway to where they're supposed to go, pointing them in the direction or something, showing them to the water, but you can't make them drink. That's the best you can do,
Right.
is just guide people. And then their level of receptivity will, sometimes you'll help somebody see something years later after you said it. You could tell someone something when they're in the midst of this defensive, unconscious life lifetime, life period. You could tell them something that will obviously be conducive to their growth, and they'll just completely dismiss it, completely disregard it. And then, like, a year from now, 2, 3 years ago, I mean, 2, 3 years from now, or 10 years from now, I don't know, it'll soak in. And that's all you could ever do, and accept that. Just because somebody can't receive what you're saying right now doesn't mean there's anything wrong with them. That's just the way of life. And think about how many times that happened with you, and that's just that compassion, man. More and more compassion for other people, and starts with compassion for yourself. Then it's natural. You don't have to try to be compassionate to other people. You don't have to try to understand their perspective, but you do originally have to try to understand your perspective most of the time. You have to try to do the inner introspection to realize why you did certain things, get to the root of it, reach the compassion, reach the understanding, reach the acceptance, and then act from a more loving space, do the next most aligned thing. And then once you start really getting that momentum going for yourself, it can't help but exude. Just like when you're not treating yourself well and you're not loving yourself, you can't help but not love other people the way that you would like to. You know, you're like, oh, why did I do that to that person? Why did I say that to them? I love them. I don't really mean that. You know, that's normally because that's how you're treating yourself. That's how your inner dialogue is. That's how you're
Mhm.
treating your inner child, you know? And yeah, it's all about how we treat ourselves, man. It's all we can ever do. Treat ourselves better and then we treat other people better. And the world has enough judgment in it already, you know.
Mhm.
We need more compassion. We need more understanding. People judge us enough in the outside world for us to feel like we ever need a freaking, you know, judge ourselves. And then eventually, as everybody starts realizing that and emanating that, there is not all that judgment going on in the outside world. It's just love, it's compassion, it's understanding. And there's a lot of this already happening. There's so many parts of the world that are already, there's pillars all around the whole world of civilizations and people and communities and individuals that are truly holding this pillar. And we are at like a much more high vibration than we realize, especially like people living in like the heart of certain Babylon centers, like they're like, oh man, the world is still so far behind on this ascension thing, but it's all about where you're at. It really is. And if you're in a really dense place, it's not necessarily meaning that you need to go and find one that's more enlightened. It means that you're there to hold a certain frequency and hold a certain vibration. And one other thing I wanted to say this way long ago about some other thing we were talking about is negative life circumstances. Sometimes you're like, oh, I already grew through this. I already like I don't know. An example is like addiction. A lot of people deal with addictions and negative habits and all this kind of stuff. Someone might feel like, oh, I've already let go of this addiction. Did a cleansing of this. I already, whatever. And then it comes up again. It's usually to like get more and more understanding, more and more compassion to those who are in those realms. If you never really struggled with addiction or negative habits or negative limiting beliefs, or you didn't really struggle with any of that, if someone were to come up to you and be like, man, I don't know how you're so peaceful. I'm like, it's really hard for me to not drink alcohol and think about doing this and get hard on myself about that. If you never experienced any of that stuff, you'd be more likely to be like, yeah, I don't know why you do that. That kind of sucks. Sorry for you, bro. Don't know what to say. Just meditate more or something. It'd be like much more cold than
Yeah.
if you've actually lived through it, been through it, and then you're like, okay, I understand you, my brother. I understand you, my sister. Like, and just hold space rather than try to problem solve all the time. Like, hold compassionate, loving space. A lot of people just need to be heard. They just need to be seen. They just need to be felt rather than told what they need to do. Most people already know what they need to do, but it's hard to actually do it. That's why we need the love to inspire each other to actually do it. When someone feels accepted in their darkness, they're like, I am worthy of light. I am worthy of loving myself. And yes, we go through a lot of negative circumstances a lot of the time to embed deeper levels of compassion so that we can be more effective guidance and assistance on other people on their path,
Mhm.
when we come from actual compassion rather than like unconscious judgment, like, wow, this guy's gone through what? Like, that ain't spiritual. Like, wow, you need to do more mantras, man. You need to sing some Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha like 108 times every morning. Like I don't know what you're tripping on, but balance with
Yeah.
everything, man.
I can really relate to this just looking back at things that I've gone through in my life and what I'm doing now with people, like the one-on-one breathwork sessions that I've been offering, and just seeing that so many of my challenges that I went through gave me the compassion and the skills and the ability to relate to the people I'm holding space for and to be able to provide them with the guidance and the compassion to be able to love and accept these parts of themselves and this part of their journey to eventually get to the other side of it. So yeah, it's so true. Going through challenging things, it can really be like an initiation, to be able to be that
Yeah.
guiding light forward and be that yeah, sometimes like an angel in someone else's life or day or, you know.
hmm Exactly. It all comes back, it all comes back full circle. Like, I always love, yeah, just somebody who really knows what it's like to go through exactly what someone's gone through. It feels good to be able to have that repertoire of your rainbow of emotional integration to be able to pull from different emotions and be like, oh, I've felt this emotion, I've identified with this emotion, I've been in this emotion, I've been there. And then all the emotions ripple out into certain thoughts, different actions. That's where the habits and beliefs, good habits, bad habits, good beliefs, bad beliefs is all rooted in the emotional spectrum. So when you've integrated this whole big library of all the emotions, you really can just like have a bigger radius of passion for other people with where they're at along the journey. Cause you're like, oh, that person's being mean and angry. I've been there. That person's being sad and depressed. I've been there. That person's being self-sabotaging and then, all that kind of stuff. And then you can really truly speak from that coherent space of understanding rather than like you can feel when someone's just fluffing you up and just kind of saying something to make you feel better and don't
Hmm.
really resonate, don't really understand. They don't really, they don't have that vibration of I don't know, heart coherence about it. It's kind of more of a brain thing. They're like, oh shoots, I don't know what to say. Keep your head up, blue skies are ahead or something like that. You could
Right.
and then the same person who's actually been through that and says the same thing and has an actual emotional presence behind it could say the same exact thing and then it'll affect them differently. It's not even about not having the right things to say or whatever. It's about coming from the space that, sometimes you don't even need to say anything. You can just have the eye contact and receive someone else and let them feel seen and felt and heard and all that stuff. We need we need more of that in the world.
Totally, yeah. And I feel like it can come from the space of like when we have met ourselves in those challenging places and really gone to those depths and given ourselves what we needed in those moments, then it's so much easier to, or for the other person to feel that resonance, to feel met by us, because we're like, oh, I've accepted and integrated this part of myself, so I know how to show up for you now, and they can feel that, and they feel safe. They don't feel judged. They don't feel like dismissed. They feel safe to then allow that part to come home too and for it to be integrated within themselves,
Yeah,
which is so beautiful.
exactly.
We have a little bit left. If you wanted to share anything about word magic and casting spells, because I know that's one of your things that you're pretty good at, and you mentioned it earlier. So if you have anything to share on that.
I really personally, with how my brain works and I love etymology, and getting to the root of words and really sitting with words. And the best way to learn is from yourself and like recognizing patterns of thought, patterns of expression that you say a lot and really sitting with them and feeling the vibration of them. You can kind of do a self-analysis, etymological understanding of words like by yourself. But I've also read a bunch of books, like word magic and, I don't know, a lot of people know the artist I work with a lot, Illuminati Congo, he actually writes books, John Hooks and, Jahn. He's got books on Amazon, all that. A lot of people don't know that. And he's given me, uh, one of his books on etymology that was really good that I really recommend. And all all these different resources that we have externally as well as internally to become more aware of what the words truly mean and the vibrations that they hold. Because, yeah, we are casting spells. Our voice, man, is like translation of connection. It's like the bridge of like mind to mind. You can connect one person's mind to another so much through this voice, and it becomes physical. You can affect the molecules in the air. I'm connected through this device, through the vibrations that come out of my voice that vibrate through the air and hit this thing and interact with it, hit the microphone, create this feedback, and then it goes into your screen, reverberates through. It's a physical thing as well as an energy that's being translated. And it's one of the most powerful gifts that we have as a human being is our voice, and how we use it by mantras and chanting Om, being in tune with the universal frequencies, all these different vibrations, um, are ways to create different, basically ways to create reality. We create reality very strongly through this strong tool of our voice. It's one of the main manifesting uh apparatuses, means of manifesting is through our voice. And then as we understand the sacredness of that, like say for example, like sex, sacred energy exchange, when people realize the sacredness of sex. Some people spend a lot of time just getting with whoever, going through unconscious programming, and then they wake up one day and they realize, like, wow, I shouldn't just share my energy with just anybody. I should be more conscious of who I share my energy with, or how I share this energy, or what I do with this energy, and how I utilize this energy. That's another thing. Of course, sex is like the most powerful thing, damn near, that we can do and experience as a human being. It's the bridge of all the worlds, and it's, I feel similarly with like the voice as a means
Mhm.
of creating and communing with the universe. And then naturally, we don't want to speak as unconsciously. We want to speak more with heart coherence, and then, utilize different words, utilize different expressions, and understand the root of certain expressions. There might be something that has one meaning, but it has another feeling. So it's not just about the meaning of words, it's always also about the feeling of the words. And then word magic, I feel, is like putting those two together to speak in a conscious, intentional way that is aware of aligned feeling as well as aware of aligned meaning behind how you're utilizing your voice. And then you're just, you know, creating in a much more aligned way and being more conscious of your co-creation, because a voice is a gift, bro. Our voice is incredible. Each and every one of us has a unique thumbprint of our own vocal cords and how we express and how, you know, our voice sounds, how it reverberates. We all have a different tone, a different pitch. We all sing different, we all talk different. And it's like, that's our unique, like, wand to speak things into existence through. And so yeah, within that, obviously, I feel like my music is like the main expression of my word magic. I try to like, what I do, be as intentional as I can with putting all of these different things together. And of course, the the poetry that I make is really a really cool way to utilize this, because rhymes, I put in one of my songs recently, like, basically it's easy to tell the truth because the truth rhymes, and like
Hmm.
following different realms of poetry and stuff like that. Like, of course, with, it's not always true, of course, but like when you are in a aligned space and you're coming from a heart center, a lot of the times thoughts will converge at rhymes, and rhymes will come naturally. That's the whole art of freestyling. You don't really think, you just say what's off the top of your head. And when you're in a certain mindset, things align really well. And I don't know. I got many perspectives on it, but I think there's a lot of truth to the fact that truth rhymes, and I really enjoy just finding rhymes and then how they organize themselves. And I'm just the messenger, just organizing it all, putting it all how it's coming through without needing to change it much. And yeah, word magic is an ongoing thing, always looking at how you feel about certain things. How do you feel about how you said something? How do you feel about something you thought to yourself? And naturally you just become more and more intentional and conscious and deliberate about how you speak and what you speak. And then that's kind of in a lot of ways exercising conscious word magic, or how people like to call it. It's just one label of just speaking intentionally, essentially speaking from the heart. And then it's like autopilot, you know. Then you don't got to really do much once you learn how to distinguish what doesn't feel right,
Mm.
you know, you just kind of knock all that stuff out. And then the natural byproduct is what does feel right. And that applies to everything in life, you know. Once you unlearn everything that inhibits you from being your truest self, all you got to do is let yourself continue flowing the natural current of your authentic essence, you know. You naturally operate from your truest self when you stop doing all the things that are inhibiting that, you know. You
Mm.
speak as your truest self when you learn how to identify what's inhibiting that. And yeah, that's a little taste of what I feel about word magic, why it's so
Mm.
important.
Thank you. Shared very beautifully. Yeah, and it's interesting that you're talking about how you feel the voice and the power of the voice is similar to utilizing our sexual energy and sexual experiences. Because if you look at anatomy, the throat and the yoni are very, very similar anatomically. So it's cool that, we have this conscious awareness, how it feels energetically, and it's also physically there as well. That
Yeah,
example of it. And it's
very
true.
true. Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like when we are engaging in the different sexual practices, whatever, we are channeling that energy through the body. And I feel that the voice is so similar. Like it's like we're channeling our energy and our codes and, the different things and emotions that we carry inside and bringing it onto the physical plane, which is so similar to what you spoke about with sexuality as well.
We got so many different ways to commune with the whole universe when we look at the body and look at all the ways that the anatomy is designed and what the meaning of all of our different body parts are. And when certain ailments come into our body, what that is trying to communicate with us. And yeah, the body is the temple. It's a very sacred medium for which we can experience creator and create through it. And yeah, the body is just nothing short of a miracle. Go on and on about it, man. Go on and on forever. You know, we live in a crazy world. We live in a really beautifully exquisite, complex design that is, I don't know, just as someone who loves to really just like observe and take full note of like things and observe different perspectives, you know. I don't even know how many years it's been since you could say that I've been on this awakened lifestyle, you know, but just never find myself getting bored with like seeing all of the different ways that things are connected and that synchronicities appear and that messages come through and the way that life teaches us things, you know, it's always an ongoing journey. Sounds like, oh, it's an ongoing journey to do this and that and the other. That sounds boring. Sounds like training for your whole life. But no, you fall in love with the process and just get awestruck all the time at the ways that existence is, you know, and the body is just a pinnacle example of that. You know, the body is just the whole universe itself and all of its symbology and different manifested parts, you know, are like we are made in the image of creator, you know, in a sense, you know, we have all of those different aspects of what we know form to be symbolized in our body, anatomically, physiologically, emotionally, how our energy centers work, energetically, you know, mentally, how the thoughts operate. Like it's all reflections of creator. It's all perfect, you know. And loving the body is so important for that reason. Falling in love with the body and realizing however your body is the image of creator itself and is creation itself, you know, experiencing itself through that avatar that you designed for yourself, you know. And yeah, the body is beautiful.
I feel like that's a perfect place to stop, unless you have anything else you want to share before
Yeah.
we.
No, I feel pretty complete.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, this is fun. Thanks for having me on here. Really happy to.
Absolutely.
Hope that people listening to this get a little bit of some lighthearted encouragement, inspiration, and reminder that you know, we're all in this wild ride together, And it could definitely be more of a, like Alan Watts likes to say, this whole life could either be a drama or a comedy, depending on how you view it. But at the end of the day, it's all the same. But I choose to view it all as a comedy, and it's just all comedically so much more complex. So, and it's so enjoyable to try to wrap our heads around and to try to approach understanding the ununderstandable. And it's just funny, we can never truly understand all of it until we go right back to source. We shed the skin and we do the whole, you know, transition into new chapter of our existence or death or whatever, until we get there. It's like, bro, we're always just gonna be playing this game of like always seeing a limited part of it. And then that allows us to be open to the limitless understandings that can always come to us. And yeah, life is a comedy. So that's my takeaway. I hope everyone sees life as a comedy instead of the drama that has been portrayed to us that people try to, that the fear can navigate through. But
Yes.
yeah, had a great time. Thanks for letting me talk and giving me stimulating things to talk about. And yeah, all your great perspectives. It's been enjoyable.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Embracing the Mystery, and I hope you enjoyed. To stay connected, you can follow me on Instagram at Danny M. Rem, or follow and like my Facebook business page, Danny Rem Embracing the Mystery, where I share weekly live channelings, guided meditations, and content to help empower you to live an authentic and embodied soul-led life. You can also find the links to this information in the bio of this episode. Thank you for being here, and I hope you enjoyed.